Thank you for coming, and we get into our issue today. The Civic Society, in conjunction with the Church, would like to express its deep concerns over the unfolding events in our nation, particularly in the body politic. It started with the pre-election period, characterized by complaints and a lot of bickering over the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission's inability to deliver a free and fair and non-contestable election result. The voting process that at face value appeared free and fair, the demonstrations by dissatisfied citizens over election results, and the subsequent shooting of about 7 civilians by the army, to the election dispute now under consideration in the Constitutional Court, are some of the sad developments that besiege our beleaguered nation, Zimbabwe. The 2018 election under serious dispute in the Constitutional Court is a result of the intransigence and ineptitude of the Electoral Board, particularly its chairperson, who did not take heed at warnings flagged by contesting parties early enough. The MDC alliance has disputed the ZEC result, which gave victory to ZANU-PF's Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, and we hold Justice Chigumba accountable and responsible for the unnecessary political mess that has even led to the killing of innocent civilians by some trigger-happy soldiers of our Zimbabwe Defense Forces. There was abundant evidence from the onset that the issues raised by many opposition parties pointed to a very contentious election outcome, but she was arrogant and unaccommodating to very pertinent concerns. Now we have a dispute in the Constitutional Court arising largely from ZEC's incompetence to play the impartial referee. Nevertheless, the nation looks forward to the judiciary, the third most powerful arm of the state, to pick up the peace, weigh the matter as judicially as they can, bearing in mind above all there is a God in heaven, the first and greater judge who is watching over them, as the citizens in the church are also watching over them. We exhort the 12 judges currently seized with this matter to brook no interference from any quarter, be it from the executive with its long tentacles, nor the opposition, or anyone for that matter. This is particularly so given that recently the president-elect, Comrade Mnangagwa, imitated how he had given some instructions, presumably to the courts, in the raging that involved Mr. Tendai Biti, a position the nation deems as clear interference with the independence of our judiciary. We therefore, in the same breath, would like to warn and urge the President-elect, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, to uphold the sanctity of the separation of powers and allow the court's unfettered freedom to adjudicate without fear or any reprisals nor threat from those in power. We want the Constitutional Court judges to know that they are the last frontier in the quest for true democracy, and that they hold the nation's hopes. Therefore, they should do it for the love of Zimbabwe and not for power mongers from any political divide. We also like the bench, the Chief Justice, and his team, much like what Justice Priscilla Chigumba did. The Constitutional Court's determination has all the ingredients of peace or stability. We also want to put it on record that our once esteemed army, whom we celebrated with in November 2017, has let the nation down. To date, we shudder to think how a trained soldier can crouch to take aim at armed civilians fleeing from him. We still demand answers from those who love to be referred as commanders-in-chief, commanders and generals. To say this is the keeping with the oath any of you undertook upon swearing into office. Spare us this blame-shifting gibberish political football games whereon you take life's responsibility over wanton killing of innocent civilians. What kind of leaders are you? The citizens and the church is asking. You have no shame, no compassion towards your own people whom you lead and are supposed to defend and protect. Other countries protect their own citizens, but here you kill at the slightest of the minutest understanding. What happened to the ideas of the liberation struggle, the relationship between the comrades and the povo and the masses? We want you to know that as sure as the sun rises from the east and sets in the west, time will come for some of you to account for these wanton murders. The nation cannot continue to experience murder and massacres with no one accounting for these crimes against humanity. To the President elite, Comrade Mnangagwa, it is important to stress that you have not exhibited any departure from your predecessor in terms of fascism and repression. We say hands off from restraining people's civil liberties. The nation takes no pleasure in leaders who indicate right but instead turn left. You rose through a coup on pretext you're going to usher in a new era of freedom and tolerance, but you are doing exactly the opposite. There was no need absolutely to call on the army as the police were coping with the situation. And this is the statement from the United Citizens Alliance, Zimbabwe Divine Destiny Prayer Network Zimbabwe, War Veterans Peace Native Forum, and the other church organizations. I thank you.